Let me tell you about the time I was a Federal Navy warlord who once collapsed an entire galaxy. I did this so I could save all of civilization. I began my war efforts at the outer rings of the galaxy, having access to only the smallest ships, the Federal frigate and destroyer. I chose the Federal Navy because their weapons did two things I highly desired. One, their weapons spread damage out among all adjacent targets, letting me wreck multiple ships and not waste damage. Two, their weapons concentrated on thermal anti-armor damage. This would allow my Federal Navy to cut a swath through the galaxy, leaving a trail of ruined ships behind. The beginning would prove very challenging as I ran into ships that had too much shields versus my thermal damage. Our destroyers had trouble concentrating their damage to get by shields fast enough before we died. Our cruisers were slow but deadly. In close range, they could shred ships with their shield-piercing kinetic guns. In long range, no ship was too far. Long-range missiles could blast shields or melt their hulls with thermal damage. Destroyers and cruisers sailed from star cluster to star cluster, burning down Imperial bastions. I gained much tachnium to spend on upgrades for the cruiser, my armored workhorse, but I needed much more firepower if I was going to deal with battleships and dreadnoughts from the Imperial and Royal Navies. My answer to this was the Federal Navy carrier. The Federal Navy carrier is a carrier with teeth. It is equipped with omnidirectional thermal cannons that can blast an enemy from any direction. It can fire thermal torpedoes every turn. It can move twice every turn. And finally, it can deploy 2 corvettes every 4 turns. Additionally, the Federal Navy corvettes can launch their own torpedoes, giving them immense firepower if a ship's shields can be lowered. We build up a fleet of carriers supported by 2 cruisers. The carriers give increased missile damage while the cruisers increase armor. Nothing can stop the efficiency of our fleets as we unleash a hellstorm of thermal cannon fire on Imperial strongholds. The last thing most of our enemies hear is the sudden boom of a torpedo or LRM punching through their ship and snuffing their lives. As we gain momentum, our propaganda starts to appeal to others. We begin sending out broadcasts to claim more systems. This gives us access to more tachnium fuel, more resources to upgrade our carriers. However, my eyes are on our last targets, the Dreadnought and the center of the galaxy. The center of the galaxy contains the most resources for upgrading our ships and final theory data that is needed to win this war. The Dreadnought is what will allow us to conquer this center and obtain all of its resources. The Federal Navy Dreadnought has an extremely powerful kinetic blaster that punches through shields, thermal cannons that rake across multiple ships with very high damage, and a LRM thermal barrage that can easily carve out the weakened guts of an enemy fleet. They also give all ships the ability to pierce through an enemy's shields. Blowing the rest of our war budget, we get our Dreadnought fleet and send them into the bright mouth of the galaxy. Our kinetic blasters shred most enemy ships in one hit. Dreadnought thermal cannons incinerate enemy fleets. Our missiles scream through the void and leave silent corpses of metal wreckage. We claim mountains of research that enable us to build the final theory warhead. We enter the inner ring of the galaxy to face the Royal Navy. However, we have maximized our dreadnoughts to Mark 8. Nothing can stand in their way. Battleships turn to metal Swiss cheese by kinetic blasters and corvette guns. A dreadnought explodes under a tidal wave of thermal cannon fire. The center of the galaxy is won. The final theory warhead is launched. The rest of the galaxy is almost 100% obliterated by the final theory warhead. However, we have won the day as the center of the galaxy is collapsed into precious tachnium fuel. The interstellar age of mankind has begun, with the Federal Navy as its government. I hope you have enjoyed this playthrough of Final Theory as the Federal Navy. I will see you all on the next one. Ave, atque, vale, mal.